I'd like to call the Tuesday, April 17, 2018 Papillion City Council meeting to order. Mrs. Brown, would you please take the roll?
Florence. Mumgard. Gaines. Glover. Jaworski. Klug. Stubbe. Ingberg.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And do we have an affidavit of publication on file?
That's correct.
And a current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the council chambers. We have an annual presentation we give, Arbor Day. We've got Jeff Perkins and Mike Newsel with us. Jeff, you want to come up? I've got a proclamation. These gentlemen represent the tree board, which, I don't know, Mike, you were on the first one. Is that 28 years ago probably? Somewhere in there? That we've had a tree board, and that's been a big role in us having being Tree City USA and actually having a state certified arboretum, which is unusual for a city to have. And a lot of it's because of the work of these gentlemen on the tree board. But I want to read a proclamation. Whereas trees are a natural resource in our community, providing aesthetic benefits by bringing beauty into our neighborhoods, softening the landscape, protecting water resources, cooling us in summer's heat, warming us against winter's icy grip, and allowing us to experience natural beauty where we live, work, and play. And whereas our urban forest is a diversity of trees gracing our streets, parks, and greenways, they are magical jungle gyms to our children, their branches reaching to the sky, providing a place to exercise and frolic, a place apart from the hustle and bustle of our busy worlds, and a place to fantasize and dream. Whereas planting a tree says we believe in the future, planting a tree says we will overcome the toughest obstacles to survive yet another generation. Planting a tree says our children will inherit a better world. Whereas Arbor Day is a special day set aside for the planting of trees, it recognizes the roots planted by past generations and symbolizes our hope and commitment for future generations. And whereas Papillion has been a Tree City USA for 29 consecutive years, now therefore I, David P. Black, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of City Papillion, do proclaim April 27, 2018 as Arbor Day in the city of Papillion and encourage people throughout the entire city to become more involved with the planting and stewardship of urban forests throughout the year of 2018. Want to share a few words?
Yes, thank you very much, and it's good to see everybody tonight, and thank you, Mayor Black. Actually, I'd like to invite you all to come to the Arbor Day celebration on the 27th, which is a Friday, and it's going to be at the Papillion Bay practice field that's located by the Papillion Bay Pool, and we're going to have Carrie Engelkamp is going to be our guest speaker, and we're planning to plant 10 trees out there this year. Some river birch and some swamp white oak to provide shade for that practice area. And the theme is for this year is Shade for Soccer. So that's our plans. And again, I'd like to introduce Mike Newsel that has joined the tree board now, so we're glad to have him back on board. And it's just been a great pleasure to be a part of that, and we really appreciate all the effort and support by the council and the city that does provide to the tree board, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Tony, just you want to educate folks a little bit on what the tree board actually does? Because it's a board that a lot of people may not even be aware of.
The tree board is a 5-member appointed board that oversees and gives us direction, advice, gives us ideas as far as what we do with our arbor care within the city. The gentlemen that are serving now each have come from very diverse backgrounds as far as arbor care is concerned. One of our members is actually part of a landscape firm, owns a landscape firm. Of course, Mike Newsel, you know, was one of the original members that started the tree board back 29 years ago. So it's a very diverse group. They're very conscientious about what we do in the city of Papillion as far as tree care, and they're really good guys too. So very lucky to have all of them.
And all residents have volunteered their time, so thank you again very much. Administrator's report, Ms. Myers.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm hoping that when you walked in the building today, you noticed the new first floor windows. Thanks to Tony and his team, they really have provided some additional benefit. We're able to see out of the windows now, and they provide some shielding from the cold weather. So again, first floor was the first phase of the project, and we'll continue to second floor and third floor as well. It's interesting that I have to mention budget again, but it's time to begin to prepare for budget. So council, it seems like we just get done and we start again. But department heads are already working on potential revenues or revenue sources. They'll be sending in their expenditures to Nancy. We should have that information combined in May, and then they go into some working sessions, and we'll be getting back to the council. But if you have any specific requests and concerns, we'll be setting up a time to meet with you regarding those. Also, I have a couple important meetings this week. I'm going to meet with Dr. Rickley on Thursday of this week to talk about the potential of an SRO canine unit. Thursday, meeting with Jeff Koistra in Gretna to talk about potential, at least early discussions regarding boundary agreement. Again, all of the elected officials and department heads should have received an email from Concord Consulting about a survey relative to me. Again, as part of my credentialed status, I need to do an assessment of performance and then establish parameters to improve on any deficiencies. So if you haven't completed that, it would be beneficial if you could do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Ingberg, and note that that does include a revised bill packet that was sounded out earlier. Mr. Stubbe.
Yeah, I'd like to have C7 removed.
C7 is pulled. Any others? Do we have any proponents on the consent agenda? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote on everything except C7.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item C7, Resolution R18-0072, a resolution to approve the execution of a contract for a $750,000 matching grant for the Papillion Landing Community Center project from the Department of Economic Development. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R18-0072? Motion, Councilman Stubbe? Second by Councilman Jaworski. Do we have any proponents? Any opponents? Council discussion? Mr. Stubbe.
Yeah, I guess, Mayor, my thought would be is that this is kind of something that we should recognize and just not have it on the consent agenda. So I think it would be important to maybe talk a little bit about this and the effort staff went through to actually get this grant.
I'll give a quick overview and then have Ms. Myers fill in a little bit more detail. If people are not familiar, there's a grant program by the state of Nebraska. If you ever hear about turnback tax or the arena tax, things like the Civic Auditorium collect sales tax from a radius around that event center, and generally that collected revenue goes back to that development to pay down the debt that was helped to build it. But one of the things they do is they have to return a portion of that sales tax back to the state of Nebraska, and that helps fund a grant program that other communities then can leverage that program. So actually, like the arena in Lincoln, the auditorium in Omaha help fund projects throughout the state of Nebraska. And I think under the program you can apply about every 3 to 5 years. $750,000 I think is the maximum grant, and we applied and we received the maximum grant. But Ms. Hansen, you did all the work. You want to fill in a little bit more?
That's a myth. We were really proud of getting this. It was a true team effort between, I started off, I handed a pile of research off on Amber's desk right before I left to get my knee replaced early in January, and Amber did a fantastic job pulling all that information together along with Chris and Nancy, putting this application together to end up getting this award. It's a huge coup for us, and it's going to allow us to extend our efforts to expand and improve upon some of the things that we wanted to accomplish in that community center project and the land around it. So we're really excited about having this this funding. So really, all my hats go off really to Amber. She did a fabulous job putting that together.
Thank you both. That helped, Mr. Dewey? Okay. Mr. Mumgard.
Yeah, I just want to add, you call it a huge coup. I say it's quite the feather in the cap of Papillion. It's a confirmation on a statewide basis, because it was statewide competition, on a statewide basis that we here in Papillion have done something that is going to significantly increase the quality of life and the economic life in Papillion, and that the community center that we have planned, at least as far as we've planned it so far, is being seen by people who looked at it as a very good thing, and it could add quite a bit of economic and other quality to the city of Papillion. And I would just say that so far so good. And I would also say that it's some indication that the taxpayers who absolutely were the beginning of this, the taxpayers approved the half-cent sales tax. That was a good idea. They did a good thing, and now it's up to us to spend the money wisely. So it is quite the feather in the cap of Papillion.
Thank you. Any other council discussion? If not, please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Next is item D1, Ordinance 1805, an ordinance to approve the issuance of tax-supported recreational facility bonds of the City of Papillion, Nebraska Series 2018 in the principal amount not to exceed $36 million for the purpose of paying the costs of constructing, acquiring, improving, furnishing, and equipping a community center and the related improvements and recreational and parks facilities and related improvements. Is there a motion to, which is very typical of bonds, staff is requesting a waiver of second and third. We don't do it a lot, but we almost always do it with bonds, and the logic is if we don't waive second and third, it's about a 6-week process to get to the final vote, and we're in a raising rate environment, so when we go to issue the bonds, you've got about 6 weeks of risk of interest rates going up. So by waiving second and third, we can start marketing those bonds next week and take advantage of the existing rate environment. So is there a motion to waive the second and third readings for Ordinance 1805? Motion by Councilman Ingberg, second by Councilman Glover, and this does take a supermajority vote. Do we have any proponents? Do we have any opponents? Any council discussion? Please vote on the motion to waive second and third.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve Ordinance 1805? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman, I missed it, Jaworski. Thank you. Is there any council discussion? Mr. Stubbe.
Yeah, I just think it's important also with this particular bond issue, it's $36 million. And I think we were also notified this week about a change in our credit from Moody's, and I think that's another thing that should be mentioned as far as being a positive, especially at this time that we're looking at going out with this bond issue.
I'll make a comment, and then maybe I'll invite Bruce up to make a comment as well, but cities are not required to get a Moody's bond rating. We went to Moody's probably 8 years ago, I think, and 10 years ago, and requested voluntarily a rating, and we got one, and then I think it was about 3 years later, 2-3 years later, we were reevaluated, and they upgraded us at that time to a level of AA2, which is an investment grade bond, but it's still like 3 levels below the highest, and we've been sitting at that level ever since then. And when this bond came up, we did request, or Moody's requested as well, that we be reevaluated. And if you're not familiar with it, it's basically like getting a credit report. So you're giving them all your financials and everything, and you're getting analyzed really deep. And we had a lot of calls. They did a lot of research and asked a lot of questions. And the end result of that is they said we're even healthier than we have been. And they recognize that by an upgrade in our bond rating. So the highest bond rating you can get from Moody's is a AAA, and then you get into AA1, AA2, AA3, and we're just below AAA. We're at an AA1 rating, which is probably about as best as most municipalities could get. So, Bruce, you want to talk at all?
Mayor and Council, yes, Bruce Leffler, Emeritus Investment Corp. Omaha. Yes, the recent rating was very positive for the city of Papillion, as the mayor outlined. In 2007, I think, is when we first went for a rating for the city on some general obligation bonds. At that particular point in time, Moody's rated the city as an A1 credit. In 2010, upon revaluation, we kind of anticipated that since it was the first time the city had been in for rating. By 2010, they had enough data from the city that they moved the rating up to the AA2 rating, which was, again, very positive rating at that particular point in time. The AA1 rating, as it mentions in the outline or in their rate upgrade, says it reflects the city's growing tax base, the economic ties to the Omaha metropolitan area, and a healthy financial profile with ample revenue-raising flexibility. above average resident income indices and no exposure to post-retirement problems from that standpoint. So very positive in that regard. What that actually means to the city, I mean, it's nice to have the rating up at the AA1 level, but what that actually means to the city on this particular bond issue, if we were to see as little as 5 basis points difference between the AA2 and the AA1, that's about $250,000 to $300,000 reduction in interest expense by being able to get there. So preaching to the choir, I certainly understand your mayor does an excellent job of promoting the city on these conference calls, letting the analysts know all the positive things that are going on in Papillion and the surrounding area. A lot of excellent help from, from Nancy and Amber in particular, and Chris from getting a lot of additional information to Moody's so that they could do the evaluation. It was my anticipation, based on the kind of tone I was getting from the rating analysts, that they were looking for this upgrade and looking for supporting documentation that would allow them to justify their decision. So it was good to see that come through. As the mayor mentioned, our anticipation is that we'll be following approval of the ordinance. We'll be marking these bonds next Tuesday. Anticipate that we'll have final rates in place by Wednesday afternoon and be able to get final documents signed by the mayor and appropriate folks.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And again, big thanks to the council, because it's the policies that we set and the working relationship between the elected officials, administration, and finance that I think gives Moody's the confidence that they have to give those kind of ratings. And as he mentioned, 5 basis points, that's $250,000, so very, very significant. I did miss one thing. I did miss asking for an introduction of Ordinance 1805. Is there a council member that will introduce? Introduced by Councilman Glover. We've already waived the motion for second and third. I'll ask again, just so we get it in the right order. Is there a motion to approve Ordinance 1805? Motion by Councilwoman Klug. Second by Councilman Florence. We've had council discussion. Any other discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. Thank you again, Bruce. Item F1, Resolution R180052, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a Class I liquor license for Kutch Inc., doing business as First Watch Papillion, 304 Olson Drive, Suite 117, and a manager application for Gregory S. Kutchell. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Do we have proponents? Is the applicant here? You want to introduce yourself, and then we've got a fairly short agenda. You want to give a quick commercial of what you're doing?
Yeah, that's
'Cause
awesome.
You're getting a lot of positive press.
Yes. My name's Dan Cavan. I'm the managing partner. This is Eric Franco. He will be the general manager. We purchased Egg and I about a year ago. We always have owned the First Watch off of 72nd Pacific, and we've been slowly converting them over. We're super excited to be part of Papillion. It's a great growing area. First Watch is basically, I like to say, an upgraded version of Egg and I. We have a lot more healthy items, some unhealthy. There are great flavors, though. We fresh juice daily. So there's just a lot of little things that we do that, we put a lot of effort into the food. Also a complete remodel. We kept the party room, so, feel free to, if you guys have anything, but we're basically looking for a liquor license just for the weekend occasional. It's about probably 1 to 3% of our total sales. We basically just do mimosas, Bloody Marys, a few other small cocktails. So definitely come out and try us. We are, this Sunday is the last day that we are open as Egg and I. We close down for 5 days. We have Friday, April 27th is our friends and family event. So if you guys are not doing anything from 7 to 2, we'd love to have you out. It's the last day of training for our servers. So everything is free that day. And we are benefiting Habitat for Humanity of Sarpy County. So all proceeds, any donations will go 100% to them. So
Appreciate you his opening up, that you're already supporting the not-for-profits in the community. Thanks for doing that. And as I mentioned, out on social media, there's a lot of excitement about you guys coming in, so appreciate that as well. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve Resolution R180052? Motion by Councilman Ingberg. Second by Councilman Jaworski. Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Thanks again and welcome. Item F2, Resolution R180064, a public hearing and a vote. A resolution to approve a special use permit to allow a beauty salon as a home-based business home occupation for the property legally described as Lot 80, Overland Hills 5, generally located at 1012 Mesa Circle. The applicant is Renee Kruger, and this is a public hearing. Are there proponents? And I believe the applicant is here. Are there any opponents? I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion to approve resolution R180064? Motion by Councilman Jaworski. Second by Councilman Glover. Any council discussion? Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion passes. No committee. That's all the regular agenda items. I don't think any committees have met in the last 2 weeks. Do we have any comments from the floor? Open public period. Students, come up and introduce yourself and what brings you here. Nobody gets away with not doing it.
My name is Lillian Briscoe. I'm a student at Papillion South, and I'm here for the Keller's class for the Applied Learning Projects.
Thanks.
My name is Dylan Hicks, and I'm also a student from Papillion South here for the Applied Learning Projects.
My name is Hai Nguyen, and I'm from Papillion La Vista South, and I'm also in Keller's class, and I'm here for a project.
I'm Katie Coble, and I go to Papillion South, and I'm doing the Applied Learning Project.
Thanks for coming out. Any other comments from the floor? Any council comments? Mr. Stubbe.
Yes, so one thing I noticed that our administrator did mention, which I think is important, is that there are 8 building permits listed in our administrative report, and I believe I counted 5 new buildings, total of about $17 million, round numbers. Obviously, one of the large ones is Facebook, but the other one I noticed is a new building for a contractor that's actually working for the city of Papillion. So I think that's a definite positive. And
I think that's very significant for a couple of reasons. That's according to the building permit, that's 2 stories, 16,000 square feet. So it's not an insignificant building. And so for them to choose Papillion to build an office building for them to be located in, I think is a fantastic statement. And what I think is even more important about that, it's going to be located right on Highway 370 in front of Kingsbury Hills at 114th, just this side of 114th. And we've always talked about more office on that 370 corridor. And we saw it a while ago with a Class A office building for SAC. Now we'll see another one at 114th, and there's some conversations for a couple of others. So thanks for pointing that out, because I think it's very significant. Mr. Mumgard.
Yeah, I also want to go back to something that's on the city administrator's report, right there at the very top with, I'm going back to it. Upcoming events, I want to remind everybody about the Papillion Senior Center Open House and Fundraiser a week from tomorrow. It's always, they've had this every year. It's always a lot of fun. I emphasize the fundraiser part. It's really important to our senior groups to be able to provide as much funding as they can so that they don't have to get it from the city. I've been there every year. It is always a lot of fun. I will be there next Wednesday. I will be spending money, and I encourage all of you and all of the public to come down 1 o'clock Wednesday the 25th at the Senior Center and spend money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have, as Lori points out, they have good pie.
Mr. Ingberg.
2 quick comments. First of all, just a reminder to everybody that this week is spring cleanup. Runs Thursday through Sunday at the Public Works Facility on Cornhusker. Second of all, to back up a second to the financial that we were talking about earlier, one thing I wanted to jump in and say, and I'm really proud of when it comes to the financial condition of the city, all the items that Mr. Leffler mentioned are valuable, of course, but the one that really jumped out at me was we have no pension risk. We have many communities in this state do not have money to cover pension. I mean, they really are in the red right now. We aren't. We plan for the pensions. We don't have retirement risk. I think that is something that is very, very important. And all the staff, Chris and Amber and Nancy has done a good job in keeping us up to date and fluid, and eliminates a heck of a big risk to our taxpayers. So I wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Derek, can you remind us the times of the cleanup? Do you know?
It starts on Friday. I think it starts at 7 a.m. and it runs till, I don't know the end time every day, but it goes all the way through the weekend. Till 5, 7 to 5. Yeah, 7 to 5, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Thursday, Friday.
Thank you. Couple of other notes then, just as we're closing. I think people saw an email, but if people are not aware, Ms. Powers is now a credentialed manager through ICMA, which is the professional organization for city administrators, and they have a voluntary professional designation, and it's called credentialed manager, and it's for basically senior executives, and you have to have documented experience and ethics and integrity and everything that goes along with those types of items. And she was awarded this week the credentialed manager for the first time, so she joins Ms. Myers as a credentialed manager. And the more important thing is now there are only 9 of them in the entire state of Nebraska, and 2 of them are right here, so congratulations. Mentioned the senior center already, mentioned the office building that was pulled. Legislature wrapped up. I don't think there was anything really significant from a city perspective that happened. The things we were watching closely was the small cell towers that we talked about a lot, and that did not pass, which is what we wanted. And then I think the other thing of significance, which is kind of still a wild card to everybody, is there was really no property tax legislation that passed. And there is now the ballot initiative for property tax, and so if that passes, that'll probably have some very significant impacts. So next probably 2 years of legislature will be interesting, and what's the impact of municipalities, so we'll just be keeping a real close eye on that so we know how to react and plan around that. The only other reminder is Arbor Day on the 27th at Papio Bay, and again, I think he said that was at, is that at 1 o'clock, Tony? 1 o'clock over at Papio Bay by the new soccer fields, and we appreciate everything there. Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Councilman Jaworski, second by Councilman Glover. Please vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
We are adjourned.